Okay, I had this recent discussion with a American friend who quoted Mark Twain saying that German should be a dead language because only the dead have time to learn it. And whilst that is very funny, I just thought I gave you three quick reasons why I would recommend everybody to learn German, come here, study it, and how you should do that. Okay, first the how. With languages, I think it's the way we learn languages in school is ridiculous. That's not how you learn anything. Imagine learning a practical skill by breaking it down into subparts, like, for example, any sport. And you would have classes about in soccer how you would do an overleap, and then you would just practice it in very detailed form, but always theoretically. And languages are practical skill. Of course, you need to learn a grammar. Of course, you need to learn some vocabs, but you sponge it up. You don't need. You're a language machine as a human. You don't need to study that for hours and hours. Just make the shift. If you want to learn German, come here, full exposure, learn German. And the thing is, how this is possible is by just shutting off English. And that's the thing why Americans never learn or barely learn different languages, is they can always get by. They never have to jump in the cold water. They can always get by. They can always speak English and be understood. They never have to scramble for words. But when I came to the US the first time, my English was poor. I switched to German and nobody would understand me. And it was frustrating, but it was also so helpful. I just kept all my German contacts out. I had contact with nobody. And I actually got very good very quick. And also we had a lot of au pairs from Slavic countries, which would work for my mother in our house. And I would always see the same pattern, which is those who quit their own languages and took the leap into the cold, they learned so much faster, almost 10 times faster than those who always had a double SIM phone where they could always have their Slovakian or their Czech SIM card still in there. They would never learn it. They had made no commitment to the language and they simply didn't learn it. So I think if you want to learn a language, have full exposure and shut off anything. Don't read English books, read German books. Don't watch English movies, watch German movies. Don't talk to your American friends in English. Just don't. Just say, I'm sorry. And there's actually an amazing story. My ex-girlfriend has a father from Syria, and he was actually very big in this Hamburg Arab community. And up to recently, nobody knew that he was able to speak Arab because he came over when he was very young. And he always hid that fact because he said, the moment I speak my Arab to somebody, they will always talk to me in that language. And I don't want to talk in that language because I want to learn German, because German is the language of the country I am now. It makes no sense for me to speak another language. And so his German is fluid. And a lot of people in his community says never get to the 15% threshold of vocabs. They've never mastered that because they can always get by in just communicating with those people that know their language. So, and now I just want to give you 3 reasons, very intellectual reasons, why I think you should learn the German language. The first one is Goethe. Goethe's Faust, I think, is one of these works of history which is so immensely powerful, just changes the way you see the world, a huge impact on your perception of what it means to be a human in the deepest sense. And unfortunately, it's untranslatable. People have tried to translate it. You get a very shallow sense of what the whole thing is about. But the way Goethe structured the Faust is that it's a theater play, but every single sentence rhymes. And if you like poetry like I do, it is a paradise. And it's the best German poetry, arguably, that you'll find. Insane figures of speech. It's really beyond me how one person could have wrote this thing. And the plot is also very intriguing and just grabs on so many things about if you just see there, if you know the basic plot of Faust, it's somebody who sells his soul in order to have youth and longevity, and this pact with the devil, that he works with the devil. Goethe takes that and makes a very intriguing thing where Faust becomes this intellectual which has studied everything, but finds out that he has not come to the deepest root of what things really mean. His perception, or the way humans are able to perceive, is too shallow for him, and he wants to know what holds everything together in its root. And so the devil descends from heaven, and in the form of technology, or so it's interpreted. So it's a very artful made devil figure, which is called Mephisto. And if you read Bulgakov's Master and Margarita, you see that this devil figure is becoming has just crossed into different literary outlets and is very prominent. And this devil kind of tricks Faust into doing some horrific stuff. And the main plot of the first Faust 1 is actually about how technology takes human away from their humanity, what it means to be human, and thus leads the humans to destroy nature. And I think what could be more relevant today than this spelled out? And it's kind of like the manual, if you will, for modern society, I think, and the struggle we face. Okay, going on. Second reason why you should learn German. There's a poet which I think is getting almost no recognition in America, also because he's difficult to translate, and that is Paul Celan. That's Paul Celan. And the way he approaches poetry is very intriguing, where the German language allows you to combine nouns together, and that's why you see all these composed words which are so ridiculously long. And he uses these thing in German speech to really shape new images by creating words which are not really that, which aren't actually are an oxymoron, if you would put them together. And he puts them together, and it's really brilliant. It's really deep, and it touches on one thing which I think in this culture is getting really ignored, and that is the importance of pain for the constitution of a personality. Like Jung said, that the neurosis is part of us, and that's why I think Paul Celan should also, life-changing book. It's a reason to learn German. And the third reason is because you should giggle at the brilliancy of Schopenhauer. Borges once said that there's one author he would prefer over all other German authors, and that is Schopenhauer. And the way Schopenhauer approaches philosophy is just brilliant. He is pessimistic, gloomy, but also very, very artful in the way he writes non-fiction prose. You always tend to, if you think about German philosophy, I guess you think about Kant, which is oftentimes unreadable. even though it always makes sense, or Heidegger, which has these absurd new words, or Hegel, which I think is the worst among them, and they always write very difficult, or Adorno in modern times, they write very difficult, very hard to understand them. Schopenhauer writes very fluently and beautifully, really. It's a magnificent style, and you just should absorb the way he writes, because difference in comparison to reading a novel, which has beautiful sentence structures, these sentences, how he builds them, you can just introduce in your own life. He philosophizes in a beautiful language, and I think everybody should learn German to love this gloomy old man, which is so wise and has so much to say. It's so deep, I'm not going to be able to get into it, but I think all of you had heard about Schopenhauer, and if you ask me, his time is coming. And just to give you a bonus, maybe even a fourth reason to learn German, is there's a underappreciated German author in the last century. His name is Arno Schmidt, and Arno Schmidt is going to be a German giant, and he is the closest the German sphere of language has ever come to James Joyce. And he's actually, the crazy thing is he died in the 80s, and he read a ton. His whole house is full of books, and he read so many very old tales and kind of like crams them all together into his art, which comes so multi-layered, because you have a story from 1500 and then you have James Joyce over it, and the complexity of his work and the vision. He's a visionary artist, avant-garde, so to say, and how he approaches language is insane. But also the way he does it is he has this, his biggest, most successful book is 1,500 pages of A3. That's this big, and it's 3-columned, and there's never been made an official script from it. It's always been a transcript or copy of his original, which he wrote and pieced together, and it's just an insane work of art, and it just lies in the German language, really undiscovered. Nobody touches it. I studied comparative literature for 2 years, and nobody ever mentioned it. I mentioned him once or twice just to see if somebody has anything on him. Always check the German studies. They never had anything about him, which is an utter shame and a disaster. And it actually just shows how poor the academia is doing at the moment. I actually saw up in their own bullshit, but that's another topic for another time. I hope you enjoyed this video and start learning German. See you.